While subjecting her to every whim of his lust, Aqhat continued to guzzle wine until he was quite drunk. Aqhat tried her best to be kind. He had convinced the inebriated warchief that she actually enjoyed his brutal style of lovemaking. "My lord, your member is like that of a stud bull. But I am told that you have magical powers as well. Are these stories true?" Aqhat nodded with half-closed eyes. "Yes, they are." "That you can transform yourself into a hawk?" "Oh, you laugh, I become an eagle." "No, you're teasing me. You cannot really become an eagle." "Oh, yes, I can," he insisted. "Well, I will not argue with you," she said demurely. "You don't believe me, do you?" "Well, I said I wouldn't argue." "But you still won't believe me." And so saying, he lurched to his feet, muttered an incantation, and before her eyes he became a very large and somewhat drunken bird of prey. "Well, that's wonderful," she cried. "What a remarkable illusion." "It's not an illusion," the eagle said. "Well, then, prove you're not an illusion. Go catch us a pheasant, and I'll cook it for breakfast. It's almost dawn." The great bird walked. A short time later, he returned, carrying a plump pheasant in his beak. The big eagle strutted proudly over to Aqhat, and as he bent down to drop the prize at her feet, she poured a jug of oil over him and dumped a burning brazier on his feathered head. Aqhat grabbed her cloak and dived out of the tent just before it became a roaring mass of flame, and through the inferno could be heard the shrieks of an eagle and finally the last screams of a dying man. She had had her vengeance, but escape was not so easily gained. A score of red-veiled tribesmen surrounded her. Spear points were leveled at her from every side. A ferocious figure in a swirling cloak wearing an eagle helmet broke through the close-packed ranks of desert warriors, and the pale pre-dawn light, the war goddess Aqhat herself confronted Aqhat. "You dare to slay my champion, you sneaking bitch, you painted slut? I will skin you alive and make wineskins of your teeth. Lash her to a cartwheel," she commanded. But the first man to put hands on Aqhat took an arrow through his eye and fell instantly dead. The rest backed away in sudden fear, their gaze turning eastward, from whence came a deadly shot. Standing tall in a gold-chased chariot at the edge of the campground was a mighty black-bearded bowman wearing a horned helmet. The first morning sun of the autumn equinox was rising behind him, and the younger man, whose features were not visible. But the tall archer in the horned helm spoke with a voice that rolled like thunder. "We would have arrived sooner, but we were fishing in the Sea of Tenerife," he said as he notched another arrow. Aqhat seized Aqhat by the hair and drew her dagger. "Fishing for what?" she demanded to know. "This bow you covet," Bow replied, drawing the arrow's fletch to his cheek. "You have brought enough sorrow to the house of Daniel, sister. Now let the girl go." "My ungrateful, meddling little brother," Aqhat spat. "I've won all your battles for you, slain all your enemies. I even raised you from the dead this very day, and in return you conspire against me, thwart my desires, and now you would deny me my vengeance. Damn you for a dog, the girl dies." As the wrathful goddess raised her arm to slice Aqhat's soft throat, Prince Bow loosed his shaft. Aqhat lurched back with a shock, dropping her knife. The arrow from the powerful composite bow had found its mark in the unprotected flesh of her armpit. The bronze point pierced both lungs and found her heart. Her senses reeled, but she would not let herself fall down. She knew she would recover. Goddesses could not be killed this easily. With a mighty effort, she wrenched the bloody arrow from her body and threw it aside. She struggled to stay on her feet, wondering what had happened, wondering who she was, who she had been. Her necklace of severed heads broke, and the trophies rolled away like melons fallen from a cart. Her girdle of severed hands parted, and the withered members blew away like leaves on the wind. Aqhat took advantage of the goddess's confusion to run to the chariot, and to her happy surprise discovered that Baal's driver was none other than her brother, Prince Aqhat. They clung to each other in a fond embrace. Lord Baal Cloud Rider threw back his great cloak and let the morning sun flash on his magnificent golden armor. Shopshish, the sun goddess, haloed him in a nimbus of glory that left no doubt as to his divinity. The ranks of awed look toward the city of Harnam, men of the desert, for there cometh your liege lord and his lady, Prince Baal declared. And as they turned their faces toward the fortress, a tall, clean-shaven man wearing the crown of Bashan, accompanied by a woman of regal beauty, came out of the gate and made their way toward the encampment. Meanwhile, Aqhat had been standing, wrapped in her cloak, while a series of strange expressions had been passing over her face. Her always beautiful features had lost their cold aloofness, and had even softened into a sultry, seductive cast. She tossed away the eagle helmet and shook out her mane of flaming red hair, dropped her cloak to reveal a voluptuous figure sheathed in sheer clinging linen and adorned with a delicate harness of glittering jewels, each marking the location of a mystic power center in her body. There was a mischievous twinkle in her eye. The goddess Astarte had made her debut. All the men noticed her graceful walk as she stepped up to Baal's chariot and slipped an arm around him, as she looked up at him with adoring eyes. "My dearest prince, you have completely overwhelmed me. You're such a skillful archer, and so strong. Such penetration," she murmured as she stroked his loins with gentle fingers. "My stallion," she whispered. "Yes, and you're making it obvious," Baal muttered, somewhat embarrassed. But she continued, now moving her whole body against him. "Oh, I would so love to borrow your bow. And of course I would need a big, strong fellow to string it for me and teach me how to shoot." Prince Baal looked up to heaven in exasperation. He could almost hear Father El's gentle laughter. "Oh, how can I refuse?" he answered her. She took the magic weapon easily from his hand. The goddess Astarte gave Prince Aqhat a condescending smile as she plucked the bowstring in a subtle note of triumph. Baal kissed her on the lips. Her mouth was yielding soft and honey-sweet. His passion raced, his senses reeled, and his reason fled away. "From this time forth, you will conquest on softer fields of battle, but with powers grown tenfold," he said. And then in a lower voice he added, "I will come to love you all the more, but I shall fear you nonetheless." And that concludes our modern version of Prince Aqhat and the Magick Bow. Now, the transformation of Aqhat into Astarte that we have done is a modern addition, and I want to make sure you understand that that this is not in the original story, but it seemed like such a good idea, because actually around about this time, Astarte was starting to replace Aqhat as the primary goddess of the Canaanites, because they were becoming civilized, much more civilized and settled, and they really needed a goddess of fertility and a goddess of nature more than they needed a war goddess, and so Astarte came from a minor role into filling the major role. So consequently, that's why we've done it the way we've done it. Now, one of the things about Prince Aqhat and the Magick Bow that I think you should realize is that this is primarily done to be an introduction to a mythology that we have really only really had access to this mythology just in the past 50 years or so. We just, before that time, we really didn't have that much of an idea what the mythology of Melchizedek's time in the Holy Land really was. This is the religion of Hiram of Tyre and Hiram of Biff and two of the Grand Masters of Masonry, and Solomon, of course, was the Jewish one, and they have all got together, the three of them, and they built the great temple. So, at least I think that temple was built for El, the great Father God that both the Canaanites of Tyre and Sidon, and this is the Masonic symbolism, of course, of the building of the temple between two religions, and the two religions cooperating, because essentially their Father God was the same God. And the whole idea of Yahweh came up later. Solomon was almost certainly a worshiper of El. And of course the 10 lost tribes of Israel were worshippers of El. So this is a look into the origins of magic and the origins of Solomon's tradition. And it's, I think, a good way to make this lost mythology come alive, so we can use it for magical purposes. Now, we'll take some calls now. If you want to ask about this or magic in general, we'll go ahead and take your calls. Okay, have we got anybody? All right. You're on the air. Who am I talking with? Yeah, we're here. Who it is? Have we got somebody on the line?
Oh, yes. Mr. Runyon, it's an honor to speak with you.
Well, it's an honor to have you on the program. Yeah, who am I talking with?
Oh, Emmanuel.
Hi, Emmanuel. Yeah, now, got any questions about Aqhat or anything related to anything related to the O.T.A's mythology, or would you just like to talk about magic, or what?
Oh, I definitely have a question, and I'm very honored to be the first caller.
What's your question?
Oh, yes. My question is, in terms of goetic evocation, having previously attempted it and gotten like a partial manifestation via scarring, I would like to know, in terms of my next experiment, would it be best to try to contact the entity that was previously trying to communicate with, or should I just simply begin with a different entity?
Well, now, we begin always in the O.T.A., and this I'm relating this back to Aqhat and the Magick Bow again. We begin always with Bow and Astarte. When we start, we have our male receivers will receive Bow for the first time, because it's easier for, using the mirror method, it's easier for a man to receive a male entity, and it's easier for a lady to receive a female entity. So consequently, Bow and Astarte is where we start. Now that's, however, if you're not, if you want a safe start point, that you don't want to do Bow and Astarte. Visago is, very, very good. In fact, Visago has always been considered to be a good spirit, and is used outside the Goetia by a number of different traditions. Outside of the Goetia, they use Visago. So I would start, especially because you're male, I would start with Visago if you don't want to use Bow.